Yeah. Midnight. Concrete. Nobody out here but ghosts. Yeah, step outside and the pavement tells a different kind of story. Broken glass cathedral window, substitute for glory. Every corner got a legend and the one is spray painted. Every face I pass at 2 a.m. looks hollow and antiquated. I've been moving through this city like a current underground, picking up the frequencies that nobody else has found. Dumpster fires, light the block like ceremonial flame. Everybody playing chess but nobody knows the name of the person who invented all the rules we live inside. I just know I keep on walking and I swallow up my pride. 14 blocks from where I started, still can't see the end. Every alley curves to somewhere I've already been. Hollow city, hollow men. Everybody talking but nobody wins. Hollow city, neon rock, chasing something real and everything when I seen ambition turn a brother into something cold. Watch them trade his mother's number for a hand of gold. Said the streets was temporary, just a stepping stone. Next thing he's a cautionary tale carved in the stone. I don't moralize, I document what's in front of me. The bodega owner counting change uncomfortably. The kid who memorized the bus schedule by heart because his mama's car got repossessed before the start of every new semester. And he still showed up, still absorbed the lessons while the system gave him cuts. That's the realest education, no curriculum, just survival as the syllabus, the minimum. Hollow city, hollow men. Everybody talking but nobody wins. Hollow city, neon ride, chasing something real and everything when they built the skyline high so we forget to look across. At the zip code right beside us, carrying the cost of every tax break, every loophole, every deal. The hollow city runs on, keeping certain things concealed. Now I archive every detail like a journalist. Every pothole, every promise, every protagonist who tried to change the narrative and got absorbed instead into the machinery of keeping people underfed. Not on food but on the vision that their life could stretch beyond the block, beyond the borough, past the final breath of limitation. Dressed as culture, dressed as destiny. I reject the script, I write the next, I hold the frequency. Hollow city, still breathing, still here. Nobody gave me this seat, I took it, static and all. Built my throne out of static and secondhand wire. Every frequency I tuned it kept on spitting out fire. Never had the blueprint, so I drew my own coordinates. Mapped the territory out before the morning hits. That was passing down positions like hereditary thrones. I was digging through the landfill, making weapons out of bones. Not literally, but figuratively. Every setback was a resource that I studied before staging my comeback. I don't sit at tables where they own a conversation, where the entry fee is silence and the cost is your foundation. I construct the architecture of my own domain. Every brick a sacrifice, every wall a campaign. Static tall, built on frequency and nerve, taking everything I'm owed, not what they prefer. Static tall, can't collapse what I designed. Every enemy I've had just sharpened up my mind. Accountability is currency in short supply. Everybody's got a reason and an alibi. I've been guilty of the same before I caught myself, pointing fingers while my own hands gather dust on shelves. Now I own every decision like a balance sheet, public with my failures just as much as my receipts. Because the version of success that hides its origin is just a castle built on sand waiting for the wind to come and strip the facing off and show the hollow frame. I'd rather stand in ruins than protect the fabricated name. So I say exactly what I mean and mean exactly what I'm willing to defend when all the comfortable doors are shut. Built on frequency and nerve, taking everything I'm owed, not what they prefer. Can't collapse what I designed. Every enemy I've had just sharpened up my mind. When the camera's cutting, nobody was anywhere. I was in the room still working past the point of praise, building something permanent that outlasts all the phases. Now the static is a symphony I've learned to read. Every interruption was a lesson that I need. I sit upon this throne not out of arrogance or show, but because I laid the foundation in the undertow. When the current pulled me sideways, I just redirected force, recalculated every variable and stayed the course. Static throne means nothing came to me already clean. Everything I have required, everything I've been. Static throne.
But the rain, I learned to drink it. Dip. Step into the cipher and the temperature adjusts. Every syllable I'm dropping, turning marble into dust. They wrote the invitation with my name spelled wrong. I showed up anyway and stayed the whole night long. I don't require your permission or your category. I've been writing my own chapters of my own story since the age of 9, with a notebook in the church pew, drawing exits out of every situation that they threw my direction as a wall. I turned it to a window, watched the landscape shift from limited to info, rich and wide and full of every possibility that nobody thought they'd hand me, so I took it willingly. Acid rain, keep falling on my crown. Watch me drink it, watch me never once back down. Acid rain, been falling my whole life. Turn the corrosion into something sharp as a knife. I've been underestimated in specific rooms where the ceiling was established before I entered the womb of the conversation, where my seat was already assigned to the corner of the attic with the back of the line. I flipped the seating chart without announcement of drama, just delivered something undeniable and calmer than they expected from a woman with this much to say. Precision is more frightening than volume any day, so I sharpen every sentence to a surgical point. Walk into the room and every head turned at the joint, where ability and confidence collide in the air. I just let the acid rain fall straight into my hair. Acid rain, keep falling on my crown. Watch me drink it, watch me never once back down. Acid rain, been falling my whole life. Turn the corrosion into something sharp as a knife. You thought the rain would ruin what I'm made of. You didn't understand the composition. Acid only eats the things that can't withstand it. I was forged specifically for this condition. Now the room adjusts its posture when I'm speaking. Every word a calculated architectural freaking masterwork, a cadence, a precision of the nerve to take up every inch of the attention I deserve. Not borrowed, not on loan, not handed with condition. This is mine from the foundation to the summit of ambition. Acid rain been falling since before I had a name for it. Now I stand inside the downpour and I claim every bit. Acid rain, still standing, crown intact. Obsidian forms under pressure, cuts cleaner than any manufactured blade. I am the thing that formed when everything collapsed, the volcanic consequence of every time they lapsed. Then judgment, thinking pressure breaks instead of forges. I emerge from every fire sharper than they gorgeous. Little theories about what a woman of my composition could withstand, could produce, could bring to the position of authority they never thought to offer. So I built the table, built the chair, built the coffer, full of everything I generated in the making of a space they never designated for my taking. Obsidian, I cut through narrative with edges, formed from centuries of heat beneath the ledges. Obsidian, formed from everything they threw. Every attempt to break me just refine me into you. Obsidian, the sharpest things are dark. I was forged in the collapse, now I'm the sharpest in the art. Now I'm the sharpest in the art. I don't perform the softness they require for entry into spaces where the gatekeeping is century level serious, where the aesthetics of acceptable are calibrated specifically to make me feel susceptible to self-revision, to the quiet shrinking that they dress as polish while I'm standing there thinking about the version of myself I left outside the door to fit inside the frame they built for someone else before. I stop revising at the entrance, stop the calibration of my edges to their comfort, stop the amputation of the parts that made them nervous, stop the performance of the smaller version dressed in their compliance. Formed from everything they threw, every attempt to break me just refine me into you. Obsidian, the sharpest things are dark. I was forged in the collapse, now I'm the sharpest in the art. They wanted decorative stone, something pretty for the mantle. I came out a surgical instrument, too precise for them to handle. No, now I move through every obstacle like obsidian through flesh, cleaning without hesitation, no second guess required when the edges form from actual experience, not theoretical, not borrowed deliriousness, a false confidence, but the earned and tested certainty of someone who came through the fire with their identity intact and sharpened, and more herself than at the start. Obsidian is what remains when pressure meets the heart. Obsidian, unbreakable, razor sharp.
Some channels go dead, not because the signal stopped, cause nobody's listening anymore. I've been transmitting on frequencies nobody tunes into, building something real while everybody's moving through the surface of the culture at the speed of the digestible, the 30-second window of the comprehensible. I take up more space than that, I require the full sit down, the patience of the listener willing to stay around, past the first familiar hook, past the comfortable lane, into the territory where the signal starts to strain. Against the edges of the easy and predictable, I don't make music for the metrics or the festival playlist. I make it for the 3 a.m. encounter with yourself in the kitchen, being your own accountant of everything you've been avoiding in the daylight. I make it for the dead frequency moments of the night. Dead frequencies, nobody tuned in, but I kept transmitting through the discipline. Dead frequency, the signal never dies, just waiting for the ears that know how to find what lives between the stations in the static space. The real transmission, hiding in the in-between place. I watch the culture flatten to a single acceptable wavelength, where the range of human feeling gets compressed to a safe length for consumption, where complexity is edited to clarity, meaning actual clarity, manufactured familiarity with the feeling package for the widest possible reception. Not the truth of the transmission, but the strategic selection of the most commercially viable demotional notes. I've been singing in the frequencies that nobody promotes, not from martyrdom, but from a genuine inability to compress what I'm carrying to the utility of easy consumption. What I'm transmitting requires more bandwidth than the algorithm provides or desires. Dead frequencies, nobody tuned in, but I kept transmitting through the discipline. Dead frequency, the signal never dies, just waiting for the ears that know how to find what lives between the stations in the static space. The real transmission, hiding in the in-between place. Every dead frequency is just a living one that hasn't found its listener yet under the sun. I keep transmitting past the point of audience into the permanent record of the diligent. Now I find them, the receivers of the dead frequency, the ones who scan the spectrum with the decency of patience, who don't need the signal pre-digested, who bring their own decoder to what I've invested in the transmission, who complete the circuit with the presence and their willingness to work it out together, what it means to be alive on frequencies the mainstream left behind to die. Dead frequencies, still transmitting.
melting point of any metal.
You can't burn me out. Yeah. They threw every temperature they had in my direction. Tried to find the point at which I bended that correction, but the composition of my character runs tungsten deep. Formed impressions that the average test can't reach or keep. Applied long enough to make a difference to the structure. I've been through the furnace of the deliberate obstructor. Every system that was engineered to manufacture my departure from the standard that I'd set for my chapter. I don't buckle, I don't soften past the point I've chosen. Every concession I have made was calculated, not frozen in the pattern of compliance that they hope to cultivate. I gave where I could grow and held where I needed to wait. Tungsten, highest melting point alive. You can't find the temperature to make me compromise. Tungsten, everything they burn just prove the composition of the metal they were never gonna move. I spent time in rooms where the heat was interpersonal. Every interaction a rehearsal of the commercial. For a version of myself that moved with less resistance, that absorbed the friction with a little less persistence, and maintaining what I knew to be essential to the project of becoming something consequential. Not to them, not to their system of rewards, but to the long arc of the life I'm building toward. Tungsten in the filament, that's the original. The light that produces is the visible residual of the pressure and the temperature endured to become the thing that makes the dark floor cured of its blindness, to become the source of light through the willingness to hold the heat and burn right. Tungsten, highest melting point alive. You can't find the temperature to make me compromise. Tungsten, everything they burn just prove the composition of the metal they were never gonna move. Character is just material tested over time. Every furnace tells you something about your design. I came out of every test with data on myself. The tungsten composition sitting on the shelf of self-knowledge. Now I know exactly what I'm made of. Now I know exactly what the fire is incapable of. Now I move through every challenge with the knowledge of the tested. Every obstacle assessed against the manifest of what I've already survived and what that means for the current calculation of the things between me and where I'm going. Tungsten in the spine, holding the architecture of ambition in line. Can't collapse what's built from the highest melting point. I am tungsten at the core of every joint.
Tungsten. Still standing, unmoved.
Most dangerous things look harmless until they're inside you. I don't raise my voice because I don't require the volume. Every word I place is surgical or custom. Calibrated instrument of meaning, not a noise. Precision is the weapon of the women without boys. Love mentality without the need to dominate the room. By decibel alone, I let the silence be the tomb of every argument that thought it could outlast me. I've been in the ring with bigger mouths and none could outclass me. On the quiet level where the actual decisions happen, where the real power isn't in the loudest caption, but in the room before the room, the conversation that determines every outcome at the presentation. I was in that room before you knew the meeting existed. Built the framework for the outcome while you twisted. In the wind of your own volume going nowhere. Porcelain knife already in before you're aware. Porcelain knife, you don't see it coming. Beautiful and silent while the blade keeps running. Porcelain knife, underestimate the craft. I've been cutting through your narrative for an act. They assigned me decorated and I accepted nothing. sat inside the category, quietly constructing and exiting the entrance simultaneously. A door inside the wall they built so ingeniously that it took them years to notice what I'd done. By the time they saw the blueprint, I had already won the argument, the contract, and the territory that they thought was theirs by virtue of the mandatory assumption that the space belonged to their default. I just kept on working past the point that they just stalled. They woke up to a different arrangement of the furniture. I've been moving in the dark with the precision of a nurturing architect who knew the floor plan better than the owner. Porcelain knife, the quietest donor of disruption in the system of the comfortable. The beautiful instrument, unstoppable. Porcelain knife, you don't see it coming. Beautiful and silent while the blade keeps running. Porcelain knife, underestimate the craft. I've been cutting through your narrative fore and aft. Don't confuse the softness of the surface for the core. Porcelain is fire at temperatures that war cannot replicate. The beauty is a byproduct of the process, not the purpose. Don't obstruct your own assessment with the aesthetic of the thing. The knife is in the feeling, not the glittering. Now I walk into the room and feel the recalibration of the energy, a subtle reorganization of who's watching and who's measuring and who's aware that the dynamic just redistributed in the air. I don't announce it, don't perform it, don't require the acknowledgement. I just maintain the fire of the porcelain knife inside the elegant exterior. Nothing about my silence makes me inferior. Porcelain knife, already inside. You just haven't felt it yet.
California sits on fault lines. So do I. The ground beneath the confident exterior is fractured. Every fault line in my history been captured in a sediment of choices made when I was younger. Before I understood the architecture of the hunger that was driving every decision past the rational into the territory of the habitual and fractional self-awareness, moving fast enough to outrun the reckoning that every fault line builds toward under the sun. I've been the earthquake waiting in the geology of a life constructed over unaddressed mythology about who I was and what I needed in the distance between those things and every compromise insistence that I was fine. The ground was stable, nothing shifting, but the fault lines kept on moving, kept on drifting. Fault lines running under everything I built. Every structure carries the geography of guilt. Fault lines, California in my chest. The ground moves when I finally come to rest. Yeah, I sat across the table from the version of myself that I've been running from and placed them on the shelf of my full attention. Looked at every crack that I've been spackling over to avoid the looking back at the original fracture, the first fall. The place where the tectonic shifted to a heart between what I believed about myself and what was actual. What I performed for others versus the factual. Interior geography, the map I never showed. The fault line running through the middle of the road. I've been traveling as if the ground was solid. Every structure I constructed on it, solid. Looking from the outside while the underneath was active. The fault line of a life that was perpetually reactive. Fault lines running under everything I built. Every structure carries the geography of guilt. Fault lines, California in my chest. The ground moves when I finally come to rest. Yeah. You can build on fault lines if you know they're there. Design a structure for the movement of the earth. Engineer the flexibility required to survive the shifting without losing what is worth. Now I build with the fault lines in the blueprint, not around them but accounting for the footprint of the fracture, making room for what will move, not pretending that the ground is in a permanent groove of stability. I'm building earthquake ready, flexible where rigid would just shatter, steady in the ways that matter but not brittle at the joint. That's the architecture of the fault line at the point where geology becomes philosophy. The ground moves and I move with it, not in apology, but in the engineering of a life that can withstand the shifting of the actual terrain. I stand. Fault lines, still building. I'm moving ground.
They buried everything real under neon inconvenience. I came to dig it up. Neon covers everything the city wants to hide. The transactions and the loneliness occurring side by side. Everybody lit up on the outside, dark within, performing the aesthetic of a life that's wearing thin. At the edges where the costume meets the actual skin. I've been watching the performance from the place I've always been, adjacent to the spectacle but never quite inside it. The observer at the neon burial, who can't abide it? The way we dress the hollow up in saturated light, and call the decoration meaning, call the surface night life, call the transaction human, call the feet connection. I've been walking through the neon with a different kind of detection. Neon burial, everything real is underground, buried under spectacle and digital sound. Neon burial, I'm digging through the light to find the actual substance underneath the night. I watch communities get neon washed and renovated into something photogenic and completely fabricated from the authentic. Every rough edge smooth to content, every struggle was aestheticized until the intent was indistinguishable from the branding of the place. Every elder priced out to preserve the visual space for the incoming who want the grit without the cost. The neon burial of everything the neighborhood lost. I document it, not in anger but in witness, because someone needs to testify to what the business of displacement looks like underneath the Instagram filter. The neon burial happening off kilter from the narrative of progress and revitalization. I'm the voice inside the burial, the living recitation. Neon burial, everything real is underground, buried under spectacle and digital sound. Neon burial, I'm digging through the light to find the actual substance underneath the night. Give me fluorescent truth over neon light. Give me the ugly real beneath the beautified. Give me the conversation that the lightning interrupts. Give me the burial opened up. Now I move through neon cities with my eyes adjusted to the frequency beneath the surface. I've been trusted by the underground to carry what the light obscures, to speak the names the neon burial ensures. Get forgotten in the glow of the spectacular, the pedestrian, the daily, the vernacular of lives lived past the radius of the photogenic. I am the anti-neon, the authentic, the endemic voice of everything the burial tried to cover. Dig with me and see what we discover. Neon burial, still digging, the real is underground.
I've been mapping places that only exist in smoke. Some destinations only visible through haze, the ones you find by wandering through the unmarked days of an itinerary nobody else could plan for you, because the territory only opens to the actual you. Not the scheduled version, not the productive optimized, but the drifting, undirected, wandering disguised as lost, which is just found in a different orientation. I discover my most important destinations through the smoke of the unplanned, the canceled and the fell through, the nights that had no structure where the actual self grew. Past the managed version into something uncontrolled, enough to reach the territory I was never told existed in the landscape of a life lived with direction. Every smoke cartography requires some misdirection. Smoke cartography, mapping where the haze leads, following the drift to find the things I actually need. Smoke cartography, no compass in the fog, just the wonder in the self becoming the catalog. Yeah, I had a conversation in the parking lot at 4 a.m. with someone I just met that changed the whole system of assumptions I've been running as my operating code. A chance encounter on a smoke cartography road that I was only on because the plan had fallen through. And the alternative I found myself defaulting to was just driving with no destination, letting the city reveal itself in fragments. Not the committee of itinerary items, but the spontaneous, the unscheduled, and the accidentally generous encounter with the real that only happens in the drift. Every smoke cartography contains that gift. Cartography, mapping where the haze leads, following the drift to find the things I actually need. Smoke cartography, no compass in the fog, just the wandering itself becoming the catalog. The clearest maps I have were drawn in smoke. The firmest ground I found was where the certain broke into uncertain, in the drift into the haze of a smoke cartography burning through the days. Now I build deliberate space for the unplanned into the architecture of what I have and what I've scanned is important. I protect the drift the way I protect the schedule, because the smoke cartography is checked. Every assumption I was running on is accuracy against the actual, the living, the immediacy of a world that keeps revealing what the plan obscures. The smoke cartography is where the real endures. Smoke cartography, still drifting, still finding.
They said I was fragile. Glass isn't fragile. Glass is just honest about what breaks it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've been the window that the light comes through, transparent in a way that's both my gift and residue of a childhood where the safest thing was being readable, where being known completely made the threat more manageable. I learned to let them see me as a strategy of safety. Glass exterior, the interior less hazy than the guard is, so they thought they had the full picture. But glass reflects as much as it reveals. The scripture of the transparent is that you see what you project as much as what exists. The glass is a direct mirror of the observer. As the window with the subject, I've been using your projection as a method to deflect. Glass gospel, preaching through the transparent. Everything you see in me is partially apparent. Glass gospel, what you think you know is the reflection of yourself inside my glow. I've been called too sensitive, Like feeling is a flaw, like the depth of my reception is a problem in the law of acceptable emotional real estate for a woman who wants to be considered serious, a human being of intellectual and professional standing. Can't afford the luxury of actually understanding the full spectrum of what's happening around her, so she narrows it to what the system found her useful for. I rejected the reduction, I maintained the full bandwidth of my function as a feeling, thinking, moving through the world completely present to the whole of it, and I do it neatly without apology for the sensitivity. Glass gospel, that's the totality of me. Glass gospel, preaching through the transparent. Everything you see in me is partially apparent. Glass gospel, what you think you know is the reflection of yourself inside my glow. Yes, I feel it deeply. Yes, it moves through me completely. Yes, the glass receives the full impact of the light. That doesn't make me breakable. It makes me the most accurate recorder of what's right in front of us that nobody else will name. Now I preach the glass gospel to whoever needs the text of a life lived in full reception of the complex, beautiful, and brutal simultaneity of being completely present in the arity of the actually feeling in the culture of the numb. Glass gospel for the ones who haven't come to terms with their own sensitivity as power. I'll be here transmitting every single hour. Glass gospel, still transparent, still standing. Growth. Remember every face, every single one. I got a memory like a crow, I catalog the faces. Every slight, every dismissal, everyone who traces the outline of my value with the diminishing pen. I file it in the architecture, won't forget it and win. The season changes and the power shifts its axis. I don't revenge, I just remember that's the practice of the crow who holds the face inside the navigation system, permanently built in documentation of the landscape of the people in their treatment. I don't carry it as bitterness, it's just the repeated pattern recognition that protects the flight path. I just know which rooftops now to calculate the math around, which hands to watch, which rooms to enter sideways. Crow season is a permanent condition, not a phase. Crow season, I remember everything, every face that tried to clip my wing. Crow season, the memory don't fade. I just choose the timing of the way I navigate. They underestimate the intelligence of the watching, the way the crow observes before she starts the launching of any action. Patient in the tree line, reading every variable before she draws the line between the moment and the movement. I've been watching from the branches of the situation, cataloging every entrance and every exit, every player, every shifting of the alliance, every layer of the politics beneath the surface of the room. I already know the outcome before they assume. I just arrive before they finish the assessment. I've already mapped the territory in this lesson. Crow season, I remember everything, every face that tried to clip my wing. Crow season, the memory don't fade. I just choose the timing of the way I navigate. Don't mistake the quiet in the tree line for the absent. Don't mistake the watching for the passive. The crow is in the branches, doing calculus before she makes a move that's advantageous. Now I move through every situation, crow aware, reading the topology of power in the air. Before I speak, I've already modeled the responses of the key participants and all their consequences. I don't use it to manipulate, I use it to survive in rooms designed specifically to keep me from the drive of my actual potential. Crow season means I see the whole board while they're still reading the opening scenes. Crow season, always watching, never forgetting.
I didn't find religion.
I built one. Every principle I practice is a low-bearing wall. Every value that I carry keeps the ceiling from the fall into the chaos of a life without conviction at the center. I constructed my cathedral at the moment I could enter. My own understanding of what mattered, passed to hand it down. The inherited belief system of the town. I grew up in the doctrine of the default in the giving. I took it all apart and chose what I was driven by from the actual lived experience of consequences, not the theoretical framework of defenses built by others to contain the range of my philosophy. I am the architect and congregation of my own theology. I am cathedral, built from what I actually believe, not the borrowed in the given, but the chosen energy. I am cathedral, every wall attested true, every arch a principle that held up. Do the proof. I've been in the iron cathedral at 3 in the morning when the doubt comes in like weather without warning, and I sit with it inside the walls I built deliberately, and I ask it what it's carrying and listen carefully, because the doubt that enters your cathedral is important. It's the stress test of the structure, the informant on the load-bearing capacity of every principle, the places where the architecture is susceptible to revision. I don't fear it, I invite it. Every doubt I've entertained and then recited back in the stronger formulation is a reinforcement of the iron cathedral. Doubt becomes endorsement of the walls that hold the ones that didn't get replaced by something stronger, or the ones I've now erased. Iron cathedral, built from what I actually believe, not the borrowed and the given, but the chosen energy. Iron cathedral, every wall attested true, every arch a principle that held up. Through the proof, come inside the iron cathedral if you're willing, yeah, to have every borrowed wall examined for its filling. Come inside if you can handle what the echo of your own doubt sounds like in the space where truth must show. Now the iron cathedral stands in everything I do. Every decision passes through the nave of what is true, to the tested principles of the constructed faith, not in anything external but in the innate architecture of a self that's been examined. Every room inside this cathedral has been fathomed, past the surface into the foundation stone. I built this in the years I spent mostly alone with the raw material of who I actually was, and I built it for the permanence, not the applause. Iron cathedral. Come inside. Built to last. I hold myself to a standard that most people don't even know exists. Yeah. I calibrate against my previous iteration, not the competition, not the external validation of a metric someone else designed for someone else's purposes. The Mercury standard measures only personal surfaces against themselves, the morning versus yesterday's morning. The work against the prior work without the warning of someone else's benchmark, confusing the measurement. I run my own experiments with my own investment in the outcome. Data driven, but the data's mine, collected from the laboratory of the actual time I spend in the construction of the thing I'm making, not the performance of the making, the actual taking of the raw material of talent and the discipline, and converting it to something through the medicine of daily practice, past the point of inspiration into the Mercury standard of calibration. Mercury standard, measuring the only way that counts, against yourself, against the previous amounts. Mercury standard, nobody else's ruler fits the specific architecture of what I'm building with. I've been in rooms where the comparison was constant. Every achievement measured against the Renaissance. Someone else's timeline, someone else's arc, as if the same rollies from every different dark starting point to the same destination on the same schedule. I reject the universal timetable, the cathedral of comparison that everybody worships in, where your value is determined by position within the ranking of your peers at any given moment. I don't live inside that temple. My atonement is to the Mercury standard, to the personal, the growth that's only visible in the interval between who I was entering and who I am exiting. Every chapter, that's the only measuring. Mercury standard, measuring the only way that counts. Against yourself, against the previous amounts. Mercury standard, nobody else's ruler fits the specific architecture of what I'm building with. The thermometer doesn't judge the temperature, it just reports it with complete accuracy. The Mercury standard, that's only that I measure what is actually true about me currently. Now I apply the Mercury standard to everything, the relationships, the work, the daily offering. Got my full attention to the things that matter, not the things that make the most impressive platter in the social atmosphere of achievement signaling. I measure what I did against what the beginning of the day required of me, and I'm honest about the gap, about the distance and the promise of tomorrow's iteration being closer to the standard that I'm holding like a poster of who I'm in the process of becoming. Mercury standard keeps the measurement from numbing. Mercury standard, measure honestly. Mercury standard, against yourself only.
Static underneath the velvet is where I actually live. I dress the frequency in fabric that they recognize, present the transmission in an aesthetically disguised container for the content that they would've stopped to hear if I delivered it in the unadorned atmosphere of its actual form, raw and unpackaged. I learned the velvet is the vehicle, the static is the message. Wrap the difficult and beautiful and watch them leaning closer, then deliver what was always there, a slow disclosure. The thing beneath the surface of the palatable, the velvet static method is completely rational for navigating rooms designed for the aesthetic of the acceptable. I make the political cosmetic long enough to get inside the radius of the ear, then the velvet drops and what remains is what I'm here to say. The static underneath the luxury, the actual transmission in the frequency. Velvet static, beautiful on the surface, underneath the fabric is the actual purpose. Velvet static, get you close enough to hear, then the velvet drops and the static becomes clear. I've been called polished as a compliment that wasn't, by people who prefer the aesthetic distance between themselves and what my actual content would require of them if they gave it full intent of their attention. So I weaponized the polish, used it as the entry point, the promise of a comfortable experience that will gradually reveal itself as something more, a casualty of their own assumption that the velvet was the whole, that the surface was the substance and the exterior the soul. By the time they understood what they were actually hearing, the static had already done its work, the clearing of the space between performance and the actual. The velvet static method is the tactic. Velvet static, beautiful on the surface, underneath the fabric is the actual purpose. Velvet static, get you close enough to hear, then the velvet drops and the static becomes clear. Every medium has a message underneath. Every velvet surface has a static to bequeath to anyone who stays past the aesthetic, into the transmission that was always there, magnetic. Now I move through every room with the velvet and the static, both ready, both intentional, both automatic in their deployment. Reading what the room requires, the ratio of velvet to the static that inspires the most complete reception of the full transmission. I adjust the mix based on the listening condition, but the static never disappears beneath the velvet. It's always there, the frequency, the heartbeat of the message. Velvet, static, feel the surface, then listen underneath. Strip everything back, and what remains is the bones. Mine a cathedral. Take the velvet off, take the polish and the presentation, take the learner behavior and the social calibration, take the costume of the context, appropriate performance, take the version built for every specific audience. What remains when all of that gets peeled back to the frame is the cathedral bones, the structure in the name that was mine before the world began its editorial, the irreducible, the core, the immemorial self that was already present in the earliest, the child who had convictions that was steadfast in the carefulness of someone who already knew the weight of what she carried before she had the language for the things she was already bearing. Cathedral bones, the architecture of the actual, the pre-social, pre-performance, the contractual agreement with existence that I signed before the world got his hands on the material and gave it a twirl. Cathedral bones, strip it back to what remains, not the costume, not the context, not the performance of the pain. Cathedral bones, this is what I'm made of underneath, the irreducible, the actual, the things I can't bequeath. I've been in the process of returning to the bones, stripping back the renovations and the tones, added by accommodation and by fear, by the decade of adjusting to whoever was most near. In terms of power, I accumulated layers of the other people's comfort, became the prayers of everyone around me without asking what I needed from the inside of the structure that had never been heeded as the primary concern. I was always building outward, always accommodating, always reaching toward the satisfaction of the audience, the room. Now I'm excavating inward to exhume the cathedral bones that were always the foundation before the renovation and the renovation of the renovation. Cathedral bones, strip it back to what remains, not the costume, not the context, not the performance of the pain. Cathedral bones, this is what I'm made of underneath, the irreducible, the actual, the things I can't bequeath. You can't renovate what you don't first uncover. You can't build on what you haven't learned to rediscover. In an original, unmodified condition, cathedral bones require the full demolition of everything that isn't structurally essential before the actual architecture becomes credential. Now I live closer to the bones than to the surface. Every layer I maintain must justify its purpose against the test of whether it belongs to me or whether it belongs to the accommodation of the weather of someone else's expectation. If it's mine, it stays. If it's performance for the audience, it gets erased. Cathedral bones are what I'm returning to, the irreducible remainder, permanent and true. Cathedral bones, still standing after everything. You think you know the whole story? I think I know my half of it.
I've been carrying the weight of the unspoken in this room. Every conversation circling the same familiar tune of what we never said. I watch you navigate the edges of the thing between us like it's made of window ledges. You afraid to look down, so you keep on looking level, but the level is the line. You already know the devil of avoidance, you invented it. I learned it from your method. Now we're both just holding silence like it's something to be treasured. I hear you in the architecture of the quiet spaces. I've been reading what you're saying in between the places where you stop before the sentence reaches its conclusion. I've been fluent in the language of your careful exclusion of the sharpest truth since we first started having this. I just didn't know how to respond to the abyss of honesty without the parachute of distance, so I kept the conversation at a managed resistance.
Call and response. We've been speaking in the code, neither one of us invented, but we've both been told. Call and response. Something's gotta give. We've been translating silence for as long as we can live inside this careful architecture of the almost said. Call and response. Let's speak the thing instead.
I go first since you've been waiting for me to initiate. I've been terrified the truth would be too much weight for what we built together to absorb without the fracture. Running through the middle, changing all the architecture. I've been protecting the construction over the connection, choosing the aesthetic of the stable over the correction that will make the actual stronger if we let it. I've been wrong about the math, and I think it's time I said it.
I've been waiting in the frequency you weren't transmitting on, adjusting my reception every dawn to whatever channel you were broadcasting from that morning, never knowing if the static was your version of a warning or an invitation to decode what you were sending. I've been exhausted by the signal never ending without a clear transmission, so I built my own broadcast and hope that you tune in before the signal didn't last. We've been speaking in the code, neither one of us invented, but we've both been told. Call and response. Something's gotta give. We've been translating silence for as long as we can live inside this careful architecture of the almost said. Call and response. Let's speak the thing instead.
Here it is, unfiltered. Here it is undone. Two people in the space between them finally becoming one. Conversation, not performance, not the careful, not the manage, just the actual, the prayerful of the thing we should have said at the beginning. This is what call and response was always winning. Toward the moment, past the code and past the careful, into something finally real and fully prayerful.
Now I speak it clearly, without the architecture of protection. Every word a direct line, without the misdirection. I've been so afraid the real would break the framework, but the framework was already breaking in the network of the careful and the coded and the managed. What we're building from the actual is less damaged than the thing we built from silence. That's the lesson. Call and response becomes a real conversation.
And I receive it without the filter of my fear. Everything you're transmitting is finally clear. Not because the signal changed, but I stopped building walls around the receiver, stopped the shielding of the thing inside that needed to be open to the full transmission of the thing unspoken. Now the call ends and the response comes clean.
This is what we should have been. Call. Response finally. Finally.
Everything breaks down to geometry. Angles, pressure points, trajectories. I move through every situation, calculating angles. Every relationship, but geometry that strangles. So supports depending on the load-bearing design. I map the force vectors before I draw the line between involvement and the careful maintenance of the structure I protect with mathematical patience, not coldness. Engineering, there's a difference. One is absence of the feeling, one is the insistence that the feeling doesn't override the architecture of the rational, the calculated lecture of experience to the present moment's impulse. I let the geometry of consequence repulse the decisions that look good in the immediate, but carry vectors that will ultimately mediate against the long-term structure of the thing I'm building. Black geometry, the blueprint and the shielding. Black geometry, every angle calculated, every force accounted for. Nothing understated. Nothing understated. Black geometry, the math beneath the move. Everything I do is running through the proof. I was chaotic in my early constructions, all impulse and no geometry. The destructions I created in the architecture of my younger years were just the evidence of unapplied frontiers of mathematical thinking to the personal. I treated every situation as the rehearsal for the next one rather than the actual. The geometry of consequence was factual, but I wasn't fluent yet in how to read it, how to trace the angle back before I need it, as a post-mortem on another fallen structure. Now I read the geometry before the rupture, before the angle shifts past the low bearing point, before the calculation fails at every joint. Black geometry taught me in the aftermath of every failure to apply the math. Black geometry, every angle calculated, every force accounted for. Nothing understated, nothing understated. Black geometry, the math beneath the move. Everything I do is running through the proof. Euclid never walked these streets, but the geometry applies. Every corner, every intersection, every angle tells you where the pressure lies. Now the black geometry is second nature to the movement. Every room I enter gets the geometric improvement of my full analysis before I make a choice. The angles and the vectors and the force behind the voice of every player in the space. I read the math and choose accordingly. I calculate the path that carries the most structural integrity toward the place I'm building in the black geometry of a life designed with the precision of the earned and painful education of the angles I have learned. Black geometry, every angle calculated.
Compound fracture breaks through the surface. Can't hide it. Can't walk it off. It's the only kind of break worth talking about. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang.
I've been through the fractures that the surface couldn't cover, the ones that broke through everything and handed me a other understanding of the limits of my previous construction. Every compound fracture was a total reconstruction. Notice I don't say destruction, I say reconstruction, because the break that comes through skin demands a function beyond the previous design. You can't reset it to the prior architecture. You have to let it inform a newer, stronger, more deliberately built version of the thing that broke, without the guilt of having broken, without the shame of having cracked under a pressure that the structure wasn't meant to rack against. I broke because the bill was wrong for the weight. Compound fracture taught me how to better calibrate.
Compound fracture
Broke through to the surface. Every break that couldn't hide itself served a purpose.
Compound fracture.
You can see the bone, can't pretend you're fine when the break is fully shown. I watch people manage hairline fractures their whole lives, keeping everything together with the smallest knives of denial and distraction in the busy, keeping the structure upright while the dizzy spin of the unaddressed keeps accumulating. Pressure at the fracture point reverberating through the low bearing walls of the entire construction, till the compound fracture forces the instruction that the hairline never could. It makes the invisible undeniably present, divisible no longer from the picture of what's actually happening. The compound fracture is the most effective happening for the stubborn ones who wouldn't look at hairlines, the ones who needed something past the fine lines.
Compound fracture
Broke through to the surface. Every break that couldn't hide itself served a purpose.
Compound fracture.
You can see the bone, can't pretend you're fine when the break is fully shown.
Right, shut it off.
Set the bone correctly or it heals misaligned. Every compound fracture is a deadline for the work you should have done at the hairline stage. Set it right this time, regardless of the rage and the pain of the resetting. Do it clean or walk crooked for the rest of what remains. Now I catch the hairlines before the compound. I develop sensitivity to the background, stress accumulating in the architecture before it needs the compound fracture lecture. They get my full attention, I attend to the small breaks early. I extend my structural maintenance to the invisible. The compound fracture made me more sensible to the early warning signals in the frame. I don't need up on the breakthrough to reclaim my attention on the structural integrity. That's the gift the compound fracture gave to me.
Compound fracture.
Said it right.
Feel it stronger.
Some blueprints only exist in the haunting. The plans that never got to be built. Yeah. I've been living in the blueprint of the woman I was building before the interruption. Before the ceiling came down on the construction in the form of circumstance. Every architect knows the version that didn't get the chance to move from plan to structure. I've been haunted by the phantom of the blueprint that I drew before the random architecture of the world revised my plans without my signature. I carried the original, the sinister reminder of the gap between the drawn and the constructed, of the blueprint that the circumstance instructed me to fold and put inside the pocket of the present as a document of the possible, a lesson in the physics of the gap between the vision and the actual. I've been living in the phantom of the factual. Phantom blueprint, the building that I never got to raise. Living in the architecture of the unrealized days. Phantom blueprint, haunting every room. I still carry the original against the gloom. Every woman carries phantom blueprints in her history, the versions of herself, that circumstance and mystery collaborated to prevent from full construction. The career that got derailed, the careful introduction to a field that closed before she reached the entrance. The blueprint of the self before the sentence of the world's expectation rewrote the architecture. I've been holding the original as lecture notes for the current version, cross-referencing what I drew before the world began its censoring of my design with what I'm actually building, using the phantom blueprint as the shielding against the complete revision of the vision into something that bears no resemblance to the mission I set out on before the interruption. Phantom blueprint is the guide through the reconstruction. Phantom blueprint, the building that I never got to raise. Living in the architecture of the unrealized days. Phantom blueprint, haunting every room. I still carry the original against the gloom. The phantom blueprint isn't grief, it's navigation. It's the compass of the original intention, pointing through the circumstance and the revision back toward the true direction of the mission. Now I build with both the phantom and the present, the original intention and the recent revision sitting side by side in my construction, using the phantom blueprint as the instruction manual for the irreducible ambition. The core of what I'm building past the revision of the world's agenda for my architecture. I am the phantom blueprint's living extra, the proof that the original survives through every interruption and arrives in the actual construction, modified but recognizably connected to the guide I drew before the world got his hands on me. Phantom blueprint, permanent and free. Phantom blueprint, still building, original intact. Everything holy has a little sulfur in it. Yeah. I don't do the sanitized version of the sacred. I bring the sulfur with the incense to degrade it, and the elevator simultaneously present in the same breath, in the same adolescent. An ancient body of a woman who contains the full spectrum, from the holy to the profane. Not as contradiction, but as the complete picture of a human being past the scripture of acceptable femininity. I refuse the edited anthology. I bring the news of the full text, including all the chapters they remove for comfortable thereafter. In the standard narrative, the soul for him is just an honest version sung from within the actual experience of being alive in a body and a history that had to survive. Soul for him, holy and unholy, same breath. The full spectrum, from the sacred to the depth. Soul for him, I won't sing the edited, the whole truth or nothing. This is what I said. I've been in the congregation of the carefully curated, where the testimony only gets the celebrated version, where the struggle is a past tense decoration on the trophy of the triumphant presentation. I walked out of that congregation with my full text, unedited, the sofa and the complex, unresolved alongside the resolved, the chapters where the protagonist dissolved into something she's not proud of, then returned to herself through the specific things she learned in the dissolution. That's the sulfur in the hymn, the honest dark part that most edited out of them. So for him, holy and unholy, same breath. The full spectrum, from the sacred to the depth. So for him, I won't sing the edited, the whole truth or nothing. This is what I said. Every volcano has a hymn inside the pressure. Every eruption is a form of sacred measure of what's been accumulating in the silence. The soul for him is just the honest compliance with the full reality of what it means to burn. Now I sing the soul for him in every room I enter. Bring the full combustion, not the gentle center of the palatable. I bring the heat and the holy, the complete transmission, never only the part that comfortable receiving. I deliver the full frequency, the sulfur and the silver of the sacred sitting in the same cathedral. The soul for him is the most real document of what it means to be completely present in the full complexity of every lesson. Soul for him, holy and burning, both at once.
Came in hot.
You left the door open.
I've been moving through this landscape with the discipline of someone who already paid the tuition that the foolish run from. Every lesson came with a receipt and I kept all of them, filed in the architecture of the protocol of them who don't repeat the same mistakes twice in succession. I built the system from the rubble of the lessons. Don't confuse the composure for the absence of the fire. The temperature is there, I just run a different wire.
The wire running carries current from a decade back. The insulation's wearing thin and there are places where the crack in the old circuitry is showing in the pattern of the same decision dressed in different matter. I see the architecture of the habitual, the ritual disguised as the intentional. You call it discipline, I call it the familiar, the comfortable cage with better interior. Crossfire,
Two different maps of the same terrain.
crossfire,
Two different readings of the same pain.
crossfire. Neither one of us is wrong. Crossfire, but we can't both be right for long.
Something's gotta reconcile the gap
Between the story that you're telling and the actual map.
I've been watching the construction from the outside, looking at the blueprint versus the building. There's a gap that you've been explaining as intentional design, but the deviations past the tolerance of the line between the plan and the reality. I'm not attacking, I'm just reading what the evidence is tracking. And the evidence suggests the gap's been growing, wider than the story that you've been showing.
The evidence you're reading is a partial data set. You're missing 3 years of the context and the asset of the internal reconfiguration happening in the spaces that the external wasn't capturing. I know the gap looks wider from the outside, but the bridge is under construction on the inside. You're measuring the span before the cables are attached, before the structure's fully able
to support the weight. The blueprint's still accurate. I'm just building at a pace that's adequate to the actual complexity of the terrain, not the speed that satisfies your external frame.
Crossfire,
2 different maps of the same terrain.
crossfire,
2 different readings of the same pain.
crossfire. Neither one of us is wrong. Crossfire, but we can't both be right for long.
Something's gotta reconcile the gap
between the story that you're telling and the actual map.
Hey, maybe the crossfire is the most honest conversation we've been having past the managed and the patient. Careful version of the thing we say in comfort. Maybe friction is the only way to unearth what the polished version keeps beneath the surface. Maybe crossfire is the actual purpose of 2 people who both carry their own cartography, colliding in the honest topography. I hear the reading that you're giving of the evidence. I'm not dismissing it, I'm adding the difference of the interior data to the external picture. You're not wrong about the gap, that's the scripture of the observable. I'm just saying that the full text includes the chapters that the outside never checks. I'll show you the interior construction if you bring the outside observation to the junction
of the honest cross-examination.
That's the only way we get to the foundation.
Then show me, that's the only thing I'm asking. Stop the management of image, stop the masking of the interior behind the presentation. Bring the actual to the conversation. I'll bring the outside data and the honest reading of the evidence, the promise of the crossfire isn't damage, just the clearing of the manage for the actual appearing. Crossfire, clearing the air, nothing hidden, everything there.
Some things keep circling. Long after the gravity's gone.
I did it.
Some things keep circling. Long after the gravity's gone, I've been in the dead orbit of a thing that lost its pull. Still circling the absence where the gravity was full of meaning. Still tracing the trajectory of the prior. Before I understood the orbit had expired. With the relationship, with the phase, with the chapter that concluded without the ceremonial capture of the formal ending. I just kept on circling to coordinate where the thing was rehearsing. The same elliptical path around the center of a gravity that no longer would enter the calculation. Dead orbit still moving with the momentum of a purpose past is proven. Point, I see this in the patterns that I carry from the previous into the contemporary. Dead orbit, circling the gone, moving with the momentum of something over and done. Dead orbit, the trajectory persists long past the gravity that put me on the list of things still circling the center that's expired. Dead orbit, time to redirect the fire. I see it in the argument I'm having with a ghost. The person who's no longer there still hosting the most real estate inside my reactive system. Every trigger is a message from the chasm of the unresolved. The dead orbit signal bouncing off the wall of something terminal that I haven't fully buried or departed. Still circling the coordinates where it started. The orbit feels like loyalty, feels like memory, feels like honoring the gravity that used to be. But physics doesn't care about the emotional content. It just describes the trajectory of the object. And the object in dead orbit is just spending energy on a path without an ending that leads anywhere new. The circumnavigation of the same grief at a different elevation. Dead orbit, circling the gun, moving with the momentum of something over and done. Dead orbit, the trajectory persists long past the gravity that put me on the list of things still circling the center that's expired. Dead orbit, time to redirect the fire. Yeah, breaking out of dead orbit takes more fuel than maintaining it. That's why we keep the circle. It's economical to keep the familiar path, even when the center's gone, even in the aftermath. But the fuel burns. Either way, might as well burn towards somewhere new today. Now I identify the dead orbits in my pattern, the circling of the gone, or what's the matter with this trajectory that keeps returning to the same coordinates, the same yearning for a gravity that's no longer present. I break the orbit with the fuel of the present, redirect the trajectory toward the actual, the living, the adjacent, the contractual, new gravity of the next thing pulling. I stop the dead orbit, start the schooling of a new trajectory, new path, new center, new gravity to orbit, new chapter to enter. Dead orbit, breaking free. New chapter to enter. Dead orbit, breaking free. New chapter to enter.
I grind my teeth in my sleep, my body keeping score of everything my mouth stay quiet about.
Yeah. The body keeps the invoice of every swallowed word, every calculated silence when the truth should have occurred. To the surface of the conversation, every room where I perform the measured over the actual doom of biting through my own tongue to maintain the architecture of the professional, the composed, the careful lecture hall version of myself that I present to the spaces that require the managed over the actual faces I make in the privacy of my own reckoning. My body broadcasts the inventory through the beckoning of the grinding, through the shoulder and the jaw, keeping score of everything I am but rarely saw. I fit to express at the volume that it actually needed. Every grind and night of debt that went unheeded by the daylight version. Every clenched jaw, a remainder of the carried and the swallowed in the trained behavior. Grinding teeth, the body keeping what the mouth released, into the careful, into the professional and peace. Together presentation of the managed and control. Grinding teeth, the body telling what the mouth won't hold. I've been in the rooms where the grinding was required, where the actual response would have gotten me fired from the project or the partnership or the access to the resource that I needed past the practice of expressing every feeling at full frequency. So I absorbed it and I stored it in the agency of my unconscious where it ran its operations. Through the night and grinding meditations on the unpaid balance of the unexpressed, the outstanding invoice of the everything compressed into the professional and palatable container of a person who was trained to be a maintainer of the comfortable temperature of every room. At personal expense, the grinding is the exhume of the cost of the accommodation, the tuition paid in jaw and shoulder for the composition. Grinding teeth, the body keeping what the mouth released, into the careful, into the professional and peace. Together presentation of the managed in control. Grinding teeth, the body telling what the mouth won't hold.
I'm paying down the balance now, saying things in daylight at the nighttime ground. I'm reducing the unconscious over time, one honest conversation at a time. The grind is getting quieter as the ledger clears, the body releasing what is stored across the years.
Now I catch the swallow before it becomes a deposit into the grinding account. I'm more honest in the rooms that used to require the careful managed version. I've been practicing the control but real immersion of my actual response into the conversation, not the explosive unmanaged, the calibration of the honest to the context without swallowing the substance of the truth without the hollowing of the thing I actually mean to say. I'm paying down the grinding debt every day, one expressed and honest and considered word at a time, until the body's invoice has been cleared.
Grinding teeth, bodies keeping score, pay the debt. say the thing. Last frequency. Everything I had, everything I am, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. That frequency. I've been building to this moment through every prior transmission, every track of preparation for this final exhibition of everything I carried through the 24 before it. Every theme, every fracture, every signal, every orbit. I've been a hollow city in a static throne, the tar pit in the wide wrong, and every dead frequency alone. I've been the fault lines and the smoke and in the geometry, the compound fracture and the phantom and the alchemy of every theme I raised and every question I posed, every dead orbit that I broke from and every chapter that closed. This is the last frequency, the final transmission of everything. The mixtape was the ultimate commission of myself to the record, to the permanent archive of a human being trying to figure out how to be alive with full consciousness of every system and every weight, and still choose presence over numbness, still choose to create. Last frequency. Everything compressed to now. Every track before this one taught me how. Last frequency. This is what remains after all the static and the signal and the pain. Last frequency. I'm transmitting everything, every hollow city, every compound fracture. Last frequency. One final broadcast clear. Everything I am is in the signal right here. I've been the porcelain knife and the obsidian edge, the neon burial and every crow standing on the ledge of the situation, reading every face in the room. I've been the velvet static and the sulfur and the perfume of the holy and the actual, the glass gospel preacher, the cathedral bone surviving every bleacher that the world set up to watch the structure fall. I've been the acid rain and the iron through it all. I've been the crossfire and the call and the response. I've been the dead orbit, breaking from the haunts of the circular. The last frequency is different. It carries everything that came before. It's significant, not as weight, but as the material, what I'm made of. Every track a brick in the cathedral I've arrayed of. The full complexity of being something real in a world that profits from the numb and the concealed. Last frequency. Everything compressed to now. Every track before this one taught me how. Last frequency. This is what remains after all the static and the signal and the pain. Last frequency. I'm transmitting everything, every hollow city, every compound fracture. Last frequency. One final broadcast clear. Everything I am is in the signal right here. And when this mixtape ends and the last frequency fades into the silence that was always waiting in the space between the tracks, between the words, between the beats, between the hollow city and the neon covered streets, what remains is just the evidence of having tried to say something true with everything inside. The last frequency is just the first one of the next. Everything ends and begins inside the text of a life that keeps transmitting past the final track. So I leave this in the record in the permanent frequency of everything I said with the full consistency of someone who showed up to every single session with the actual material, no performance, no confession. Borrowed from a template, everything was mine from the interior of a real and complicated mind. Living in a real and complicated time, trying to convert the weight of it to rhyme. Not to make it lighter, but to make it visible to anyone who finds this in the residual archive of the culture. Anyone who needs to know that someone else was planting all these seeds of honest documentation in the digital. The last frequency is permanent residual. I transmit it past the end of the recording into the silence where the next voice starts performing. Last frequency. Still transmitting after the silence. You find it, or it finds you. Either way, the signal never actually dies.